Okay, so we are on Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph. We said we had the stira between the Mishnah and the Brisa, right? That the Mishnah had said that the second part of our Mishnah, the last part of our Mishnah had said that if someone hired a worker and he tried to cram down on the worker that he should get paid with the hay or the straw that the worker is collecting, the worker can say, no, thank you, I want cash. But the Brisa says that you can, that the employer can force him to take the straw of the hay. So it depends on whether the owner had hired him to pick up hay and straw, in which case if he's hiring him to pick up the hay or straw, so then he's being kinded for the owner. Then
there's a can.
It belongs. It's going to be owned by the boss, so he's going to have to pay. He's going to have to pay him like you pay anyone. You have to pay money. You can't say you have to take something else in place of money. But if it's just he's just watching it, and if we're talking about hay and straw that's of hefker, then it's not, the hay and straw does not become conny to the owner, so he doesn't have to pay him. He could say that I hired you to watch this thing. It's I'm not achroy to pay you for doing something that didn't end up with me being kind. It's what was the svara of that?
Because we were talking about it was hefker, right?
Yeah, I'm saying, but the point is, but the hard part to understand is Lamaisa, he was hired by this owner. So what does it make a difference what he's doing? So this is the shver part of this svara, which I had trouble with yesterday also, was saying that when the owner tells him to watch it, so therefore the owner is not being kind since there's no hagbah, there's no kins, therefore it's not kani to the owner. So then when the owner tells him, pick up the hay and straw and take it for yourself as your payment, so that's in place of him paying him, because then it's going to become kani to the, but with the hagbah, it's going to become kani to the worker. But why it's not really clear to me. Why does the owner have the right to tell him to do that? Let the worker tell him, I'm not picking up this hay and straw. It's not going to become kani to me, and I did what you told me to do. Why? So I want to get paid. So it's it's a little that's the point I don't understand. Why does the worker have to listen to the owner and pick up the straw and then be kind it? Okay, but we had this problem yesterday as well. Okay, that's what they hold. So Dr. Gemara. Amar, we're on Kuf Yud Ches Amud Aleph, about 15 lines from the bottom. Amar. So we've come to the conclusion though that havata, that watching something, whether it's when you watch something that's hefker, is that kained or not? So havata behefker tanoi. This din that we just said that havata is not kained, that's really a machlekes tanoim. It's not. Shomer sviche shvius. Someone who's watching the shoots of shvius, and he's watching them in order to be able to use them for the Eimer and the Shtei Alecha. You have to use from the new crop, but it's during Shvius, so you can't just buy it, and they're not going to be able to be. So Neutlen Schara Mitrumas Halishka. They get paid from Trumas Halishka. These watchers, the people who are watching it, so that it should be available to make sure that there'll be something available to be used for the Eimer, they get paid from the Trumas Halishka. B'Yossi Eimer, Haroitzim Besnadev, Pushay Mechinam. Rabbi Yossi says it's not true. They don't have to get paid. They don't have to be laborers watching. They could some do it. A person could be minad of his work and watch it as a sher mechina. So the Chacham said back to Rabbi Yossi, "Ata Aimekein, you really saying this? Aim ba mishal tzibur. If we're going to do what you said, then it's going to turn out that this stuff that grew during Shvius, it's not going to be when it's brought as a hakrava of Omer, it's not going to be Mishal Tzibur, which is required. You have to bring Mishal Tzibur. You can't bring from an individual. So what's this machlekes? The Tana Kama Savar Havata Behefka Kani. He holds when someone watches something of Hefker, he's kind of Biyav Leagra in. So if you pay the guy, so then he's watching it on your behalf. And like we said before, someone who's being paid to specifically, we want you to go and be kind of things from Hefker, it belongs to the person who hired them. So therefore, it will belong to Hektish, it will belong to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Tzibur, and then the Eimer is being brought from Shel Tzibur. Loy. But if you don't hire him, then the person will be kind of for himself. The Shem will be kind of for himself because he's not hired, and we're not 100% certain that he'll really be full-heartedly makneit to the tzibur, and you won't have Omer brought Mishal tzibur. Rabbi Yossi Savar about the behafkalikani, he says altogether, no, his watching it is not going to be kainet. So it doesn't make a difference whether he's hired or not, because in either case, it's not going to become kani. It's not that if he's hired, then it becomes kani to the tzibur, and if not, it's kani to himself. In either case, it's not kani at that point from his watching it. So then when the tzibur comes, when they send their appointed guy, the Reish Bezdin, whoever it is, to go pick up the sviche of sa'irim, of barley, at that point it's going to be zachay for tzibur, and it's not going to be a problem. And then what is the response of the Chachamim to Rabbi Yossi that they said, if we're going to follow you, then it won't be brought Mishal Tzibur. Hachikamle midvorechel dvarenu ein omer ushtei lechem boy Mishal Tzibur. If we listen to what you said, they held that Havata behefker is kana. So if we're going to listen to you and let someone who is not hired watch the sa'irim, the hefker sa'irim during Shemitah, so it will turn out that it wasn't brought Mishal Tzibur because already kani by this individual Shimer who is being menad of his time, and then we're worried that he won't be makned over full-heartedly to the Tzibur. Amar Rava loy. Rava says that's not really what that's not what the machlokes is. Everyone agrees that you are kind of behefker. The machlokes is in that second element. Everyone agrees that it will be kind, and therefore, how do the Chachamim? Why do the Chachamim say it's allowed? Because they hold that even if this person who's menad of his time is kainet for himself, we're not concerned. He'll be makned over to the tzibur, and then it will fully belong to the tzibur. The Rabbanan Savi Avinin Leagra, the Loi Chashinu Shebel Yimtzur Yafi. The Chacham hold you have to pay him because if otherwise, he's only going to be makned if he gets paid. If he gets paid, then he knows he got paid to do this job. Now he's not going to not hand it over. That's what he was being paid for. Even without being paid, we're not concerned that he's not going to hand it over. We know that a person wants to do the right thing. If he was out of his time, he's not going to then go back and ruin the thing by not handing it over to the tzibur. And what is the if you that the Chum said back, if we'll do like you say, then it's not going to be brought Michalsi. But if we'll do like you say, meaning allow the person to be out of his time, according to us, that we're chayshish that he might not give it over. Then the result will be that it won't come Mishal Tzibah. Ikeda Amri, Rav Amar, the Kulyama Havata Behefka Loikan. Or it could be the other one. Everyone agrees that just watching something of Hefker, you're not going to be kind of. The question is, the issue, we're not at all worried that the person is going to be kind for himself, whether he's hired or not, because Havata is not kind of. Just watching is not going to be kind of. This person is not in any way going to be kind. But the problem is, we're worried that other people might come. It's during Shvius. And anyway, it doesn't belong to anyone. So you have these Shemer, but the Shemer can't really stop anyone from taking it. So the question is, are we worried about whether other people will come take it? It's very interesting that we sometimes find that the like Joey Newcomb says, I think every Yid's a tzaddik, even these Bali Israelis, even these tough guys that come and take things, and they don't care about the fact that someone's watching or waiting for it, and they know that it's intended for the Yomer, but if they know that the Shomer was paid for it, then they'll take it seriously. If a guy just said, I'm like part of Shomer, I'm a volunteer, and I'm watching this for the tzibur that they should have a Omer, and the tough guys will come and take it anyway. They'll say, you appointed yourself. I don't really care that you think it's for yours. It's Shvius, and this belongs to the public. Everything is hefka during Shvius. But if the guy is hired, then they'll realize they'll take it more seriously, and then they'll listen and they'll go away. Rav Yossi Sava Loitakinu. They said that we're not masakin for the Bali Israelis, that they're not the Bali Israelis are not going to take it as long as there's someone whose job it is to watch it, even if he's not paid. And what's the Ata Omer? What is the if we do that the Chacham said back, if we'll do like you, it won't be Mishal Tzibah. Hachi Kamalei. Bidvarech Ledvarenu. If we'll follow you in Midbar Mishal Tzibah. Then like the same thing. Like, I don't know exactly why we have to keep repeating it. We're just saying if we would do like you're saying, it would come out to not come from Tzibah. Rabban and Rabbi Yechanan also say this pshat in what the machlokes is. The machlokes tanoim is whether we're chayshish that people will take it. That's why they argue about whether the person who's watching has to be paid. Zak the Mishnah. Hamoitzi zevel rishus harabim. Someone who brings out manure into the rishus harabim. Hamoitzi, the person who brings it out, mazavel, and then immediately whoever's coming to take it as fertilizer must take it as fertilizer. It can't be left out like that. It's not, you can't leave zevel in the rishus harabim. Ein shoyrin tit b'rishus harabim. One can't soak cement. Tit is or concrete. We used to make some cement. So you can't soak that in the Rishus Harabim. Ein loivnim levenim. I guess this concrete or this clay was used to make bricks. So after it's been soaked, you soaked it inside because you said you can't do it outside. You can't take the formed bricks and do that in the Rishus Harabim. Aval goivlin tit b'rishus harabim, but you can mix the clay in the rishus harabim, but you're not making it into bricks, but you want to use it right away as the cement in between the bricks. Avaloi levenim, but you can't use it to make you can't be goivel it, you can't knead it in the Rishus in order to make into bricks, because that takes longer, and you're making too much of a chashash of damaging people in the Rishus Habayna b'Rishus Harabim, someone who's built Habayna b'Rishus Harabim, someone who's building in the Rishus Harabim, meaning right next to the Rishus Harabim. Hamevi avonim, mevi v'Habayna bayna. If someone's bringing construction materials, he's bringing the rocks or the stones to make his binyan, he has to bring them there to the shram and immediately take them out. They can't be left. Vim hizik, the Gemara concludes, the Mishnah concludes on all of these things that we said. Vim hizik mishalam masha hizik. We said some cases you're not allowed to leave in the shram, or it has to go out immediately. And so other cases we say he could leave it for some period of time. But in either case, if it causes damage, the person who brought it there is achroy. So it means even though the Chacham allowed him to use the Rishus Rabbim, it just means he's allowed to do it in the first place. He's not going to get stopped by the policeman and told to quit. But if he does so, he's still responsible for any damage that comes from it. Rav Shimon Gamliel disagrees. Af misaken who is malach he's not going to be responsible for the hezek, and not only that, if he has to put his construction materials into the shurabim next to where he's working, he can do that for 30 days before he uses it. So, like you often find, you'll find a dumpster in front of a house, and there's just a rabbin, or you could put your pallets of brick. They can stay out there for 30 days. Let's say our mission is like Rabbi Yehuda, tiny Yehuda. During the winter, when people take out their zvalim, because anyway it's muddy outside, other mitzvahs zvalir surab it's cyber kol shoshim yom. Person can take out the manure and put it outside and leave it there for 30 days in order that it should be trampled and become good fertilizer. Because that was the deal when Yeshua conquered the land, that people should be able to do what they need to do. So you see Rabbi Yeshua saying that you could do it, and we're understanding that even if it's Almanas Kain Hinchel Yeshua Sa'aretz, there's also he's not going to be chayiv. We said that first of all he has to take it away immediately, and we also said he's going to be achroy if any hezek comes about. He says Almanas Kain Hinchel Yeshua as Yisrael Sa'aretz. So he's saying it's potter. He's not going to be chayiv for damage done. So I feel Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda shem hezek chayiv l'shalom. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda says when he's saying that almanas kain hinchel, just that you're allowed to do it. He's saying you can do it, but he's going to be maida that if you do so, you're chayiv and hezek. And our Mishnah, which said if you take it away, if you put it there, you have to remove it. That's telling you advice that if you do, because if you put it out, you're going to be chayiv and hezekim. But Einachanami, he has the right to leave it there for 30 days, like Rabbi Yehuda said. So Gemara, but how can that be? Vatnan, Rabbi Yehuda begner Chanukah shu patna pnei shu oiser b'shus. Rabbi Yehuda says that legabe zevel that you only have 30 days, but ner Chanukah you're going to be potter because he's doing b'shus. My love reshus to bezdin. So doesn't that mean to say that Rabbi Yehuda was not saying that he's allowed to do it, but he's going to be chayiv and hezek? By Ner Chanukah, he said he's potter. If it causes damage, he's potter because it's done b'rishus. So you see where it's done b'rishus of the bezdin. So then he's not chayiv. So you can't say that Yehuda and our Mishnah are both saying that you're allowed to do it, but you're chayiv for any hezek. So Gemara loy rishus the mitzvah. No, it could be that the Rabbi Yehuda holds that you are going to be chayiv hezekim, but Ner Chanukah is an exception because it's a mitzvah. When it's a mitzvah, you can't be chayiv. You can't be responsible for the damage that's done. But Tanya, we said about in the Brisa that all these things that if you're allowed to do them in the Shurabim, if it causes damage, you're chayiv l'shalom. Rabbi Yehuda pater. But Rabbi Yehuda says in the case of your pater, this is clearly saying Rabbi Yehuda is not saying like our Mishnah. He's not being mechalik that you can be allowed to do something according to Rabbi Yehuda, but you're going to be chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda says if the Chacham said you're allowed to do it, that means you also pater on the consequences. So you can't understand Rabbi Yehuda that way. You have to understand that Einachanami, our Mishnah, which says that if it does damage, you're going to be chayiv, is not like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda clearly says in this brisa that if you're allowed to do something, then you're not going to be chayiv if it causes hezek. Amar Abai, Yehuda, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rav Shimon Kulu Svirlu, Kamakum Shenaslu Chacham Rishus VeHizik Patur. They all hold, like we just said in Rabbi Yehuda, that if the Chacham allowed you to do something, if it causes damage while you're following the rules, you're not going to be chayiv for the hezek. Yehuda Hadamar. Yehuda is like we just said, that we had asked. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Shimon Gamliel, the Tanan. Rav Shimon Gamliel is the end of our Mishnah. The Tanan Rav Shimon Gamliel Eimer. Af Mesakin Lusmachim Es Malach Deilfnei Shoshim Yom. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says not only is he allowed to do it, he can do it for 30 days beforehand. And he's saying Af, and that was a response to what we just said in the Mishnah. We had just said the din that if he causes hezek, he's going to be chayiv. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel responded to that and said, no, he's allowed to put it in, and he's not going to be chayiv for the hezek that he does. Rav Shimon the Tanan, hayamamidai ba'aliyah, someone's placing an oven in his aliyah, tanner, he's making a big, that's a big oven. He has to have a floor of a thickness of 3 tvachim underneath it in order that it shouldn't cause damage underneath. Or bekira tefach, and in a kira, he has to have a floor underneath of a tefach in order to protect the person underneath him from damage. The Tanakama says, but if he did so, even if he followed these rules of how much is the minimum of reinforcement that it needs underneath the oven, if it did cause damage, nevertheless, he's still going to be chayiv. He says once the Chacham gave a shear of what you have to do if you follow the instructions, that patters you from any hezek. So that's again the same concept that if you follow the rules, then you're patter from the hezek that will happen nevertheless. Taner Rabban. If you have someone who is a miner who's cutting pieces of stone, and he gave it over to the person who shapes the stone, and then the person who shapes the stone dropped it and it caused damage, or it was damaged, chayiv, hasatas chayiv. The person who handed it over to, he's going to be chayiv for any damage that happens to it or from it. Hasata shemasa l'chamer. If the shaper gave it over to the person who takes the donkey driver who's going to carry it, hachamer chayiv. If it's up, the damage happens while the chamar is holding it, then the chamar is chayiv. Chamer shemasa l'katef, and the chamer who gave it over to the schlepper who carries it on his shoulders, the katef chayiv. Then at that point, he's chayiv. Hakatef shemasa l'bnai. The katef who gave it to the builder, habnai chayiv. Then the builder is chayiv. Habnai shemasa l'adrifel, and the builder who gave it over to the final finisher, the bricklayer, adrichel chayiv. At that point, the adrichel is chayiv. V'meiniach even al hadimus ve'zika. And then the brick was finally in its place as part of the house, and then it fell out and it caused damage. Kulam chayav l'shal. They're all chayiv together to pay. So Gemara, what does that mean? That we're saying at the end they're all chayiv to pay. But Tanya achin chayiv v'kulam pturim. We said the last one who does it is chayiv, and everyone else is pater. Like kasha, kam b'schiris, kam b'kablan. So you just have to finish the whole thing in order to get some explanation of this. What we're saying is each person it depends on whether they're all going to be chayiv together. Because we're talking about these people were all part of the same company. They all hired together to get stone from the quarry and make sure that it became a finished. They were supposed to do an entire vertical integration. We want you, the person who's building a house said, I want you to take care of everything. Go to the quarry, get the stone, put it into place. So each person, as he's doing his own job, if he drops it by himself, so he's going to be chayiv for his own actions, either to the person who hired him, to the owner who now owns the stone, or if he does damage to someone else, he's liable for that. But once it's all finished, then it's the company that's responsible if damage is done, because they're all partners in bringing that stone into the place. But if the owner did not hire a company or did not hire a contractor who was responsible for getting everyone together, but he hired each person individually, so then we wouldn't say that we go back and look at all the people who contributed to bring it. We would just say whoever was the last person to put it there, he's achrei because he was the last person that was hired by this owner to do it, and therefore he's going to be responsible. So it depends on whether it's a schirus, where each person is hired individually, or kabbalanus, where they're all hired together for the job. It's a little hard to understand. In the end, it's still hard to understand, right? Even if you hire them as a team, if we're understanding that what do we understand? Did it fall out because of the action of the last person or not? If it's the last person's action that caused it to be vulnerable to falling, so what does it make a difference? They were hired as a team. What's the difference whether he dropped it or it happened later because of his actions? And if it's not his actions, how could you say the Achrun Chayiv if he's not if it wasn't his action that did it? If it could have been anyone. So I'm not entirely understanding what the chiluk, the lumdus behind the chiluk of the Gemara. Zok the Gemara, Zok the Mishnah. Shtei gina zu al gav zu. This is a funny seer. It's a little hard to imagine. You have two gardens, and one is, one is 10 feet lower than the other. So between them, you have a vertical earth wall where it goes down from the higher garden to the lower garden. And out of that wall, in between the two gardens, a vegetable is growing out of it. Remeya says it belongs to the one on top, like Rashi says. Since the offer is underneath his ground, so it's being yonik from his ground, right? Everything past the wall belongs to the top, to the guy on top. That's part of his rishus, and so that's Rameh. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Shel Tachten. Rabbi Yehuda says Shel Tachten. Sharash says Shel Aviroi Hu Munach. He says it's a part of the airspace of the one on bottom. Amar Meir Im Yirtza Elyon Likachas Afrei Ein Kanyer. Meir justifies why he says it belongs to the person on top, because if you take away the offer, then there's nothing for this. There's nothing for this yerek to be yonik from, to nourish from. So therefore, it wouldn't exist. If he would fill up the space which he's entitled to, it's his airspace. Obviously, it also wouldn't be a vegetable because it would be taken up. Since either one of them can object to the other one, so that they're equal, they equally have rights to say that if my thing was taken away, then it wouldn't exist. And if you says if your thing wasn't taken away, each one has the same taina. We look at where it's getting its existence from, what's causing it to exist, what's nourishing it, and since it's getting its nourishment from the top, so therefore the person on top gets the Rav Shimon disagrees with both of them. Really, it belongs to the person on top. Ba'atzam, he agrees to Rameh, but he can only take that which he can reach from his property. But that which he can't reach by reaching down from his property, but he would have to go to the guy underneath and say, "Can I have rishus?" He'd shamefacedly go to him and say, "I need to go into your property to get my yerek that's growing out of the wall that we've been fighting over." So he's going to be miyayish on it. He's basically going to say, I know I can't get that. So you can only take that which could reach without going into the other person's rishus, v'ashar shel tachten, and the rest will go to the person on bottom. Amarava.
It's interesting that our mayor gets to respond, but Yehuda doesn't.
Rameh, yeah, it was like Rameh.
It's like this added.
What would Rabbi Yehuda taina back to Rameh? That's really Rameh said his last taina. Yeah, and he says my taina is stronger. He says it's being yonik from your property, from the guy on top, but since Lamaisa physically it's in the space of my property of the guy on bottom, that's stronger than the taina that both that he could take away his property and then it wouldn't have anything to hold it up, and the time that it's getting unika, that it's getting nourishment. But in the end, it's existing in my property on bottom. It's in my airspace, so it's existing in my, and that's stronger than in both of your tainas. That's I think that's the machlekes. Amarava, beikra kuli amalei pligi de alien ha. If we're talking about like a potato or a carrot, that the root is what they're looking after, then it certainly will belong to the one on top, because it's not even in the airspace. What you're trying to get is not in the airspace of the person on bottom. It's everything is in the person on top's rishus. We're talking about something like a tomato or a cucumber that's sticking out from the side. The mayor Sava Shadi Naifa Basa, right? The mayor says that which is sticking out, you go after the ikr. Yehuda says we don't say that you go what's sticking out after the ikr. Now it's very interesting that after the Mishnah went to such extent to explain what the machlekes is, now the Gemara sort of ignores it. That and we say what the question is: do you say shadi naife basa ikra or not? So yeah, but I guess what it means is the reason why we say shadi naife basa ikra will be because of the reasons that we said in the Mishnah. So the Gemara va'azdal tamayu. What's the vav? V'tanya nami. Okay, so he says v'tanya nami. V'tanya hayotze min hageza u'ma minashrashim. If someone sold a tree, and he sold the tree as it is, he still owns the karka, but he sold the tree. So, and there are new shoots of that tree. They're not branches, but they're new versions of the tree that are sprouting out. If it comes out from the trunk, minagaza is the trunk, or minashrashim, or from the roots, then we say it belongs to the balakarka, since it's coming from the trunk, or whether it's coming from the trunk or the roots, it's all getting its nourishment from the ground, and therefore it belongs to the balakarka. Divrei Reb Meir. So Reb Meir is saying, like he said in our Mishnah, that we go basa where the nourishment is coming from. Yehuda Aimer, minagaza shabala. If it's coming from the trunk, then since it's existing as part of the trunk, which belongs to the person who purchased it, Elan, so it belongs to Baal Elan. Now, Shosh is a Balakarka, but Shoshim, he is maskim to Rabbi Yehuda that it's from the Balakarka, because then the Shoshim certainly belong to the person who owns the Karka. Utzna Nami, we also have the same machloikas in another nafkamina. Gabi Arla Kiagam. Elon Hayotze, Gabi Arla. Elon Hayotze min Agaza min Shoshim. If someone has a tree that's 10 years old, so there's no din arla on it, and it has these shoots that are coming out, a new little tree that's coming out of it on the bottom. It's coming out of the minagaza from the trunk, or minashashim from the roots. Chayev ba'arla. Divrei Reb Meir. Reb Meir says each one of these things is going to be treated as a new tree, and it's going to be chayev and arla on its own. It's not going to get the din of the tree it came out. Yehuda says if it's coming out of the top, like Rabbi Yehuda said over here, he says that it belongs to the Baal HaKarka, the Baal HaTachton, because it's in his property. So he would say over here also, it's still part of the tree. But Minashashim is Chayiv, Minashashim is going to be considered it's coming out of the ground and it's a new tree. Utrichi. The Yeshmin Kamaisa, if we would have just said the first din, not the din of Arla, but a purchaser, Ba'ak Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Dimamayna, there Rabbi Yehuda will say that it's treated like a new thing, and it belongs to the owner of the tree. Avagabi Arla di Surah, but Lagabi Arla, which is a din of Isser, so we have to be Machmer. And he'll be Maida to Reb Meir that it gets treated as a new tree and it's going to be Arla. Be it Mabahaba, come Reb Meir, Bahahi, Ema Maida Lela Yehuda. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda will be Maida to Reb Meir would be Maida Rabbi Yehuda in the din of the sale, because he only said his din that we're Machmer over here by Arlo, but not in Dinei Mamas. Amr of Shimon. So we ended off our Mishnah, Amr of Shimon, or Shimon Aimer, Kol She'al Yin Yachal Lifshit, whatever the person who's on top could reach down with his hand and take it out of the wall, that belongs to him because he holds Be'etzem. We follow or mayor that it goes Basar Elyon, but he's embarrassed to take what's underneath it. I'm in the Beir of Yani, but Vachal Ya'anis. As long as he doesn't stretch out, as long as he doesn't force himself, it's not hard for him to reach. Once it's hard for him to reach, he's already miyayish in it and he gives it to the person on bottom. Boy, Rav Anavitem, Rav Yirmiyah, Magia le'noife ve'ein magia le'ikra. What if he can reach the part that's growing out, like the things growing out of the side of the like that wall in between the bottom and the top, and it's growing in the upward, it's going up, so he can reach the leaves, but he can't get all the way to the bottom. Does that get treated as if he can reach it, or as if he can't reach it? Or magia le'ikra and magia le'naife, or if it's like a vine that's going down, so he can only reach the root, but he can't reach what's trailing down the roof. Is that going to be considered within his reach or not? Teku. You leave that as a teku. Amar Ephraim Safra, Talmid Shorish Lakish. Ephraim Sefer, who was a Talmid Rish Lakish, Mishum Rish Lakish, said B'Shem Rish Lakish. Halacha Kerub Shimon. Halacha is like Reb Shimon, like he concluded in our Mishnah. Amrua Kamei Deshvar Malka. They said this to Deshvar Malka. Amalahu Aparya Nimtayel Reb Shimon. This is we're recognizing the greatness of Rav Shimon. This is a wonderful psak that he came up with. Mazel tov, Bez Shem. Tomorrow, hopefully, live, we'll be learning in shul. I hope to be in shul tomorrow, but the changes I'll let you know. Mesechtas Bava Basar. Hashutfin.
Yo, you did it again.
I'll stop again. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Does anyone, Rafal, are you available